Cormac Smith joins us, former advisor to Ukraine Foreign Ministry. Good morning, Cormac.
Julia, good morning. Lovely to see you again.
Lovely to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Must be talking really about what's going on with this the grain that is going to be... there was a deal for Ukraine to export grain, vital for the Middle East, North Africa, many poorer countries, and Russia reneging on that deal. And now Russia basically saying any ships will be arriving close to Ukraine will be seen as basically a military target for them. Really big concerns here for the international community.
Absolutely, Julia. Look, this is more evidence that Russia is a terrorist state. It is waging war now, not just against Ukraine, but against the whole world. You know, last night again and yesterday, there were massive drone and missile attacks on the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. There was a grain depot was hit where 60,000 tons of grain were destroyed. It's interesting that that grain was actually destined for China. Oh. So we might see how that plays out in the no limits friendship between those two countries.
I mean, indeed, I mean, we see the attacks have hastened. There's a lot of talk, though, reading from the experts in this field, that, you know, as opposed to armchair generals like myself, that although, you know, we're not seeing sort of obvious, you know, winning back huge swathes of territory in a day, that actually the counter-offensive by the Ukrainian forces is quietly getting on with the job and is seeing some actual progress.
Julia, I've spoken recently to a couple of senior military men, and one in particular, a retired senior guy on our side from military intelligence. The Ukrainian counteroffensive is going slowly, but I believe it's going well. And the one thing that I would ask viewers to remember is to be effective in a counteroffensive, one generally needs air superiority. If we think back to D-Day in 1944, the Allies enjoyed complete air superiority, and we know how bloody that was for the Allies, and we know that there was another that there was another year of fighting. Something very interesting, Richard Moore, who is the head of the Foreign Intelligence Service at MI6, made a speech to the UK Embassy in Prague yesterday. And he made the point that the Ukrainian army in the last month has taken back more land than the Russians had taken in the previous year. Now, there is a difference between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine cares about its own people, and they are progressing slowly to save as many Ukrainian lives as possible, although I fear they are losing a lot. So, you know, my feeling from what I know and speaking to the people I speak to is the counteroffensive is progressing slowly, but it is progressing well.
Yeah, that's all we can hope for. We're very short on time, so apologies for interrupting you, Cormac, but I just want to ask also about this first appearance. It appears on video that we've seen the first appearance of the Wagner boss, Yevgeny Prigozhin, since the actual attempted coup on Moscow. He's been pictured in Belarus. There's told that he and Putin had met for tea. I mean, what is going on? I mean, he appears to be alive. I think a lot of us had thought he was probably, you know, frankly, at the bottom of a Kremlin cellar by now.
No, look, none of us know, to be honest. My gut feeling from the very start was that this was a massive Russian deception. I mean, it clearly, you know, I mean, he was not sanctioned in the way that early statements from the Kremlin would say. But, you know, Wagner has been absolutely decimated in the nearly year-long battle for Bakhmut. American intelligence, not Ukrainians, have estimated they have taken over 100,000 casualties. I spoke to a senior Ukrainian friend some months ago when I was visiting him in his embassy, and he was very clear that part of the Ukrainian strategy in Bakhmut was to bleed out Wagner and to really damage Wagner, and this is something they clearly have done. The Ukrainians claimed at one stage they were killing Wagner at a rate of 7.5 to 1, and these are supposed to be the elite of Russia's fighting forces.
It's been extraordinary, hasn't it? Well, we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. It's very interesting also